Yeah, yeah. Coming up on Mental Health Matters with Marty. Listen, we are on part 2 of male sexual trauma. Please stay tuned for this exciting show. What's up, everybody? Hey, it's me. It's Martina Sellers. And listen, we apologize. We had some technical difficulties on our end, but we are here. Hope you are doing well. Thank you for joining us for the weekly edition of Mental Health Marty. And we are here to bring you the latest and greatest as it pertains to mental health and our community. Let me know where you're at, what's going on. And as always, I'm coming to you live and in living color, all the way from Southern California, where the sun is always shining. Listen, we're getting a little break from the heat. For those of you in the South, down in Texas and all that, getting all that rain, listen, we hope it gets better out there for you. But let us know that you're listening and where you are from. Listen, as always, we want you to have I hope you're having a great time, great day, and hope that this past couple weeks, this information has really, really been helping you. So let's go here as we always do. Let us remind you what we are and who we are as the Mental Health Matters with Marty show. We are a show that's intended for psychoeducational purposes and psychoeducational purposes only. We are not a substitute for you seeing your therapist. We are not a substitute for you seeing your psychiatrist. We are definitely not a substitute for you seeing your psychologist, your medical doctor, your dentist, your pastor, your preach, your life coach, or anything else like that. But what are we here for? We are here to give you valuable tools to add to your various treatment plans, to add to your health and wellness, because that's what it's all about. We have to stop the stinking thinking. How do we stop the stinking thinking? We have to engage in where we are at and really help erase the stigma as it pertains to mental health and mental health wellness in our Black and Brown communities. So, but if you are experiencing any type of psychiatric emergency or any type of medical emergency, please go to your nearest urgent care or dial 911. Because that's how you get the necessary help that you need. Now, how do you engage with us? We know we're on Facebook. We know that we're on YouTube. But if we're going to see any of your comments, questions, or anything like that, we need you to jump over to our YouTube channel. And we're trying to increase our YouTube following. Why? Because we want to make sure when the time comes, right, we'll be able to do even bigger and better things. So please go over to our YouTube channel with Mental Health Marty, and please subscribe to that channel. How do you subscribe? I'm so glad you asked that question. Listen for that ping, and you know that you're subscribing to the channel. And we want to make sure that you are in tune with everything that's going on. Tanya, how are you? Appreciate you always being a major supporter of the Mental Health Marty show and the program. And listen, we got to start doing some things to recognize those who are constantly following us and doing a great job, because you are so concerned about our mental health and wellness. And let me tell you, part of the reason why, y'all, for those who may not know my story, why I did this, because I believe that too many of us are secretly suffering in silence, in the shadow of shame. I say that all the time. I know it sounds cliche-ish and those type of things, but too many of us are suffering in silence and not knowing how to get the proper help so that we can live better and really embrace the lives that we know that we have been purposed to live and to come about. And how do we do that? We have to confront the challenges and the problems that we face on a daily basis and take the fear out of mental health. Listen, there's nothing wrong with saying, listen, I have a mental health challenge, and definitely a mental health illness versus a mental health crises or challenge are two different things. And we cannot allow the term mental health to definitely deter us from getting the necessary help that we need. So I hope that you saw last week's show. Last week was phenomenal. We had Robert Marshall Jr. on here last week, and he talked about the sexual trauma experience as a young man from the time he was age 5 until he was 19, and all his very male sexual. We are talking about this and keeping this conversation open, because we many, they have been victims of rape, they've been victims of assault or any other type of thing, and we don't talk about it because we have definitely, I say it this way, have this toxic definition of masculinity, and those victims also go through that as well. And if we don't break the cycles, because we see that when it comes to sexual assault, rape, molestation, all these other things, that there is a cycle that happens. Many of the abusers have been abused themselves when they were children. And so it gets into their psyche, because they then don't have the proper tools to talk about it or to even share their traumatic experiences. And too often in the Black community and in our Hispanic communities, we often say too much. What goes on in this house stays in this house. But we cannot continue to suppress abuse. We cannot continue to suppress any type of trauma that goes on, because we then begin to nurture this and continue to let it feed in our lives. And if we're not careful, that same trauma begins to overtake us so that we cannot live healthy and prosperous lives. So let me share with you just some statistics before we bring in our guest. And we're so excited to have him. He's not a stranger coming back, but I want to look at some statistics that I did find when it comes to sexual violence. Do you know that men and boys are also affected by sexual violence? 1 out of every 10 men have been a victim of some sort of sexual rape or violence. Let me say that one more time. 1 out of every 10 men have had this experience. Hey, Daryl, listen, Daryl, Jeff, I'm up here reading your comment. Definitely, listen, glad you are tuning in from DC, my brother. I appreciate you always being a faithful follower of the Mental Health Marty show and sharing everything that you do. So that's a staggering number when we're talking about 1 out of 10 men have experienced some sort of sexual trauma. Now listen at this statistic too. 1 in 4 men have been victims or of completed or attempted sexual rape, and their first experience has happened somewhere between the ages of 11 and 17. Let me share that statistic with you one more time. 1 in 4 boys who have had either an attempt or actually a completed sexual assault, their first attempt and their first experience has been between the ages of 11 and 17. What do these statistics glaringly say? We have to have conversations with our young people. We got and the numbers are even more astonishing by the time they are female. We're talking about young girls. 1 in 4 between the ages of 11 and 17 for young men, and 1 in 3 between the ages of 11 and 17 for young girls. What are we saying? We're saying we got to keep our eyes on our young people, and we have to look for changes in behaviors, changes in attitude, changes in the way they dress, changes in the way they interact with one another. If we're seeing some sharp changes in personalities with these young people, we need to be asking the question, what is going on? When we're trying to have them go over to auntie, uncle, play auntie, cousins, neighbors, any of those things, trusted ministers, and I'm not, we cannot leave any stone unturned when it comes to our young people. We have to have open conversations, and we have to create safe spaces for them to be able to talk through these experiences and what they are going through. If not, these statistics are going to get alarmingly higher and higher and higher. So we got to do a better job with creating these spaces in which we can have these conversations with our young people. Listen, I don't care if you're an aunt, if you are a big sister, if you're a godmother, a god sister, play aunt, play uncle, whatever. Start having these open dialogues and create these wonderful experiences and safe spaces for our young people to be able to talk to our adults and these trusted adults. Because if not, we're going to see the abuse that continues to explode and explore and happens in there. Too often when we're looking at these things, we need to understand male socialization, male stigma, and male reactions as it pertains to sexual violence. That is never an easy conversation to have. It never is one that's pleasant, is never one that, and so oftentimes we need to make sure we're providing the right support for these young people. And can I just not say just young people, for all people as well, to have these conversations in order to talk. I want to share with you some resources that you can do and can have. There's a National Sexual Assault Lifeline that is at 800-656-HOPE. Again, the hotline number is 800-656-HOPE. And that's 4673. And on it, they have texting, they have counselors that are readily available to support you or loved ones who are experiencing any type of sexual trauma, any type of sexual assault, and those type of things that occur that can happen unbeknownst to us right in our own homes, right in our own schools, right in our own churches, right in our own community centers. But it's essential. I cannot stress that enough. Essential that we have these conversations, and we cannot blame ourselves when these things happen or you discover this information. I'm sharing this with parents, but what we can do, and that's why I'm saying this, what we can do, can we just have a heart-to-heart conversation about this on tonight? What we can do is make sure that we are having these conversations. How do we approach these conversations? I want to share, we approach these conversations by having these one-on-ones with our young people. We have to slow down sometimes. We need to slow down to make sure that we are not only monitoring our young people, especially, and I say it's equal. We can't just say our girls and not monitor our boys as well, because too many boys and most male sexual assault goes underreported or not reported at all. And I believe that the numbers that we have and the statistics that we have are underrepresenting the actual numbers that do exist, because there's so much fear, there's so much shame, there's so much guilt that it comes along with it. And we have to make sure that the victims of this do not blame themselves, which is a number one and very easy thing for especially men to blame themselves. And then there's a struggle with their own sexuality. Did I bring this upon ourselves? Did we not? Because I have experienced far too many sessions where the parents have blamed their teenagers and said that they brought this upon themselves. Can you just even begin to imagine the devastation that occurs when you are a child and you share and the most vulnerable, the most hurtful experience that you do have, and the people and the persons that are supposed to believe you the most and stand beside you and support you, being your mother, your father, a cousin, uncle, a guardian, and they don't believe you? Imagine the hurt that comes along with it. So it creates this wall. So I no longer become vulnerable. I no longer share. And this trauma, then I put up this wall to protect myself so this does not happen again. And can I say that this is where emotional trauma then begins to stop. And then our growing ceases to develop emotionally. We don't have appropriate sexual development and age-appropriate sexual development as a result of this as well. So all I'm pleading with you, let's have these conversations. Create these safe spaces. If you can't do it at home, listen, food and taking kids out, it doesn't even cost a whole lot. You can go to Costco and get that $1.50 hot dog and soda and have an amazing conversation. Walk around the parking lot, walk around the park, do something that where you're creating this atmosphere where you can talk about this. How do you do that? Let me give you some tools, what we can do. And what we're trying to do, y'all, is get our guest on here, but I think we're struggling and we may have to reschedule this because he's having some difficulties getting on. But what you can do, what I want to offer to you today is some starting points and how to have these conversations, especially if we're talking about the quote unquote, the birds and the bees. We should talk to our young people. Hey, how are you feeling? What's going on? I noticed your body is changing. Have you, and having these conversations, listen, young people are only uncomfortable if the person who's leading that conversation, i.e. a parent or a guardian, is uncomfortable themselves. So what we have to do is create this atmosphere where they can be comfortable, where we can help them out through this and make sure that there is a comfort zone in that. And so with that being said, what we have to also realize, one of the things that is happening in this Me Too movement is that Me Too are men as well. Men are a part of this hashtag Me Too movement. But often we have done so much focusing on women who have been sexually assaulted that we don't do enough when it comes to men who are being sexually assaulted as well. And so in understanding the male socialization, the male stigmas, and the male reactions to sexual violence, we need to make sure, that's why I'm saying we're creating these safety zones and these safety areas where we can talk freely and have a plan and develop a plan. And what I share with you is this, is really, again, as I say, taking away the fear, taking away the stigmas, taking away all the things that happen with that, so that there is a great creation and a creation of safety and support. What we don't want to do is blame. That's the last thing. What I want to do is share with you what I call the LEAP theory. And when it comes to listening, LEAP, L stands for listen. Listen without judgment. Listen without judgment. Let me say that again. Listen without judgment. As we are listening, listen so for understanding, not to respond necessarily. Have an open, and you notice my voice is going down because what I'm trying to do is model how you need to be listening to your loved one and creating a safe environment for them. So we listen, and we listen for understanding. You can definitely insert questions in there, but make sure the questions are not judgmental. Make sure the questions are not blaming. Make sure you're not leading them in the path of making them feel rejected or dirty or vile or any of those things. So L, listen. E, be empathetic. Empathy is so important. You may not understand and you may not even relate to it, but you can show empathy to the trauma, the stress that they are experiencing in this moment. So we want to express empathy, and sympathy and empathy are two different things. Empathy says, I feel you. I hear you. I may not understand, but I'm there aligning with the emotions of what is going on with you. A, acceptance. Accept the pain that they are going through. Accept the trauma that they may be going through and walk alongside them. That's a part of the acceptance process as well. And affirm them that they did the right thing. Affirm in telling and sharing this. Affirm them that they are not in trouble. Affirm them that you are there to support them through this journey and through this very difficult time of their life. And P means with them, partner with them and partner in how you're going to give them support. Come alongside them and partner with them of how you're going to get them the necessary help. Whether it's definitely, I recommend therapy. Definitely, if we need to get a medical exam, whatever we need to do in that process, partner with them so that we know that they are all right, so that they know that they are all right with that. And I call that the LEAP process. And so we want to make sure that we're doing all the right things in order to make their time, that trauma, as least traumatizing for them as possible. And the signs will show up later. And so we're looking for some of these signs for our young people. Again, signs in changing of their behavior. Maybe for young men, they're getting very angry and aggressive. And as I say, anger is a secondary emotion that we need to find out what is the root cause of the anger and everything that goes on. So definitely, as we're looking at changes of behavior, being angry, maybe isolation, not wanting to leave, being fearful of going anywhere or being by themselves. That's another one. Sleeping. We're looking at the sleeping patterns. Are they sleeping too much or not sleeping enough? Are they having nightmares? We want to look at the eating patterns and everything as well, because also we know that young children, and oftentimes when there's a sexual abuse case or anything that's going on, they might defecate or urinate on themselves as well. Why? Because they want to make sure if they are smelly or if they are doing these things, then maybe their predator would not want them. So these are a lot of things. Bedwetting, even when they're 12, 13, 14, 15, we got to look at those type of things that go on. So these are all the signs of that there could be some sexual trauma that is involved that they need to be paying attention to. So these are some of the things I just want to kind of highlight with you on tonight. What we're going to do tonight, Daryl, what we're going to do, because we're having some technical difficulties, we're going to definitely rebroadcast and get this other interview in there so that you will have this particular information. And then bring on Marcel at a time when we can definitely get him on to share, because it's such a powerful, powerful, powerful story. But I just want to make sure, because I never want to leave you hanging, and I always want to be truthful and 100% honest with you what's going on. So again, because due to some technical difficulties, we're going to have to reschedule Marcel to come on another night with us so he can share his powerful story with everything that we're doing. But again, we wanted to kind of highlight and please check out last week's episode, because it was absolutely stunning with Robert Marshall Jr. And definitely you can check out his website at roberthmarshall.com and get his books. He has 6 books out that are very powerful, that addresses Black male sexual trauma. And that book, thank you, Daryl, is Echoes. And definitely this is stories of male survivors overcoming sexual trauma. Release yourself from the version of yourself you were created to survive. And that is a lot of what happens with victims who have been sexually traumatized or experiencing anything sexual, sexual trauma in their lives and sexual abuse. That's what I'm looking for. So let's look at some of the resources that we never want to leave you without appropriate resources and mental health resources to help you along your journey. Again, if you're experiencing any type of crisis, you can text crises to 741-741. Please look at Psychology Today, Therapy for Black Men, Good Therapy, and marcelconsulting.com. And you can go to the new mental health hotline at 988. And of course, we have to give a shameless plug, but a plug nonetheless, to our website at mentalhealthmarty.com. Yes, mentalhealthmarty.com. And there on our website, you can definitely find lots of items and some, please look at our shop because there's some wonderful merchandise to help you along your mental health journey. We have our journal, Stop the Stinking Thinking, that is in our on our store right now, along with some t-shirts, hoodies, as we're getting ready to transfer into cooler weather. As can you believe August is wrapping up, and definitely Black men or Black mental health matters. Again, your mental health matters with everything that we do. And I am so excited this weekend, y'all, this weekend, I am going to be in the ATL and with the Ignite My Fire youth mentoring event. I'm so glad and excited to be a part of this amazing show, this amazing conference that is going to be held at, are you ready for this? At the Shaquille O'Neal Boys and Girls Club of Henry County. So make sure you can definitely go in there and register for this amazing free event. I will be hosting a workshop for young men between the ages of 11 and 17 on that day. And it's a very, very exciting day. And if you are in the Atlanta and the Georgia area, please come out and say hello to me. I would love to see you and meet you and all those amazing things like that. So again, thank you for understanding, but I did not want to not come on tonight, but I wanted to at least share with you some of these statistics and some of the things that we can definitely do in minimizing and helping our young men who have experiencing any type of sexual trauma. But please join us next week where we definitely get Marcel back on here and get him connected properly so he can share his dynamic story. Marcel is not a stranger to the Mental Health Marty show because he has been on several occasions, but we're going to get him back connected because his story is absolutely fascinating. So in this journey called life, we don't want you to keep secretly suffering in silence in the shadow of shame, but we have to stop the stinking thinking by changing our neurological pathways. And by how do we do that? By speaking up, speaking out so that you can live. But more importantly, always remember to enjoy your life. We'll see you next week. God bless. Take care.